Killing Floor originally started life as a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004, before Tripwire Interactive approached the original devs and worked with them to release it as a standalone game on Steam all the way back in 2009. It's a wave-based co-op-centric survival shooter, where you and up to 5 other unlucky souls fight through increasingly difficult waves of zombies. Oh sorry, Zeds. There's a difference, I swear. You buy weapons and armor between rounds with the money you've earned from kills. That's it, no story, no campaign, and little to no narrative framing whatsoever. Just you, your team, and whatever combination of Zeds the game decides to throw at you. It became a bit of a cult classic, overwhelmingly positive on Steam for 15 years, and counting. A dedicated community that kept playing it well into the sequel's lifespan, both of them, and a legacy that directly shaped what is one of my favorite wave-based shooters in Killing Floor 2. For a game born out of a mod, that's one hell of a run, but I had never played the original, and the question I kept asking myself as the game sat unplayed in my library since 2022, does this hold up in current day? So, when Tripwire handed me a free key for the third game in the series, I decided that maybe it was actually time to cover the entire franchise over the next few weeks. So, is the game that launched the franchise and inspired a devoted following still worth experiencing? Or is it one of those games that mattered in the moment, but has since been caked in layers of nostalgia-fueled memories? I am Xenivus, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all my content, and let's find out. So, when the game starts up, you just get thrown into the main menu, and holy shit, this even just looks old. There's a certain charm to it though, and the fact that I don't have to sit through 24 studio and engine logos every time I boot up the game is also appreciated. Killing Floor has quite a simple premise. I mean, you are literally only about half a dozen clicks away from getting into a game from the moment you boot it up. Just pick your mode, map, difficulty, and game length, and boom, you're off. This I want to touch on from the jump, and I'd argue this game does it better than the sequel. The atmosphere. This game just has an aura about it. Something that just doesn't let you feel at ease, even in between the rounds. The maps look dirty, grimy, corpses strewn around the place. It's permanently unsettling. A vibe that really does make it lean towards a horror shooter, as these maps are actually dark. You will need a flashlight that's attached to the starter pistol at some point, unless you want to crank the brightness up to the maximum all the time. But where's the fun in that? And this is also one of the things I'd argue the original does better than its sequel. I mean, there's still gore and viscera galore in that one, but it looks a lot more modern and sleeker, and as a result, less unsettling. That's another thing I want to touch on. Map variety is stellar as well. Abandoned laboratories, blood-soaked hospitals, overran towns, eerie farmlands. The game has a wide array of well-designed maps, though I'd argue some are a little too big for this game. They all do a solid job of making you feel equally uneasy, like something's not quite right. The atmosphere is genuinely excellent at making you feel like you're up Shit's Creek without a paddle. Anyway, when you load into the game, you'll have a few items at your disposal. The starting loadout is comprised of a 9mm tactical pistol, the flashlight attached to it, a few grenades, the med syringe, which you can use to heal teammates or yourself, and the welder, which you can use to weld doors shut in order to keep the approaching hordes of Zed out. Only for a moment though. After you've dealt with the first wave of them, you can go stock up at the vendor, buy and sell some new weapons in order to stand a better chance against the next wave, as it'll get progressively harder and harder. Wait, is that it, I hear you ask? Of course not, you silly little guy. This game has classes, or perks as this game calls them. Perks that you can level up by doing a variety of tasks a couple thousands of times, if you want to get them to the max level. The first of these classes is the Berserker, a melee-centered tank type class. Its weapons are largely comprised of melee weapons. Shocker, I know. I'm talking axe, machete, katana, chainsaw, and a medieval sword. The second is the Commando. They specialize in damage dealing, primarily through the variety of assault rifles attributed to the class. Once you've leveled them up a few times, they'll be able to spot invisible Zeds, as well as see Zeds their health bars, a handy little tool, especially for the higher tier Zeds. Third perk is Demolitions, a crowd controlling explosives expert, whose arsenal primarily consists of, you guessed it, explosives. Grenade launcher, rocket launcher, pipe bomb. It's a pipe bomb! If it goes kaboom, he's got it. The next perk is the Field Medic, a class that seems to be impossible to level up if you're playing alone. They've got a variety of SMGs to play with, which may sound a little boring, until I mention that these are special SMGs that lets you shoot out a healing dart towards your damaged co-survivors. Next up is the Firebug, another crowd controller focused primarily on dealing fire damage. It's got the least amount of class-specific weapons, but they're about what you expect. Flamethrower, fireball launcher, as well as a MAC-10 that shoots fire bullets. No clue how that works, but sure. Then we've got the Sharpshooter, my personal go-to, and the one I spent the majority of my playtime grinding with. They're focused on long-distance marksman rifles, both lever action and semi-auto, as well as dual-wield handguns, ranging from regular to revolver to Desert Eagle. And finally, the Support Specialist is the 7th and last class in the game. They are focused primarily on, well, being a support. Higher ammo counts, more grenades, faster welding, and the like. Their arms are made up of a variety of different shotguns. Every class levels up as you play and complete tasks with them. For example, Demolitions levels up as you deal explosive damage through whatever class specific weapons you use. Field Medic levels up as you heal teammates. Firebug levels up by dealing fire damage. Support levels up by welding and dealing class weapon damage, etc, etc. You get the gist of it. When you level up a class, you'll get a variety of bonuses for that class to take advantage of as you play. These are a wide spread of things that will all help you fend off the Zeds, whether you're playing alone or with a few friends. For example, reaching level 1 with the sharpshooter gives you bonus headshot damage with both perk and off perk weapons, 25% less recoil with perk weapons, 10% faster reload speed with perk weapons, a 12% fire rate increase with some of the rifles, and a few discounts to round it out. Overall, a pretty robust package of bonuses for just the first level. This goes about the same way for every perk in the game. Bonus damage, faster reloads, more things, shop discounts, etc. Reaching the maximum level with a class results in a pretty ridiculous amount of bonuses. 140% headshot damage, double magazine size, 50% more damage with grenades, 70% discount. Now, I haven't reached this level with any of the classes yet, and we'll get to why in just a few moments. But having these bonuses does sound like they'd be insanely fun to play around with. It's important to mention that you can level up the other classes while you're playing as a different class. So if you're playing sharpshooter but buy an AK-47, you'll gain progress on your commando class. But it's also important to note that these bonuses do not stack with one another. You'll only get the one specific to the class you're currently playing as, which does create an interesting pick and choose dynamic between which class is best to focus on progressing currently. Now let's talk a little about the grind that's attached to leveling up the perks. Leveling up perks and killing floor can be described as a little bothersome, as it essentially boils down to doing the same couple of actions many times over. For a bunch of them, it's essentially just dealing damage with class-specific weapons. About 5.5 million points of damage to reach the maximum level of 6. Additionally, some of the perks have a bonus requirement. For support, you'll have to earn 370,000 points of welding. For commando, it's killing 3,600 stalkers with perk-specific weapons. Field medic has to heal 100,000 points of HP to teammates. Now, community consensus is that getting all of these classes to their level cap is that it'll take around about 400 hours, give or take a few dozen, which seems to be insane. Now I know KF2 also has quite a lengthy grind when it comes to maxing perks out there too, but the first 15 to 20 levels at least go by quickly. But here, even after just the first 2, you're gonna be shooting Zeds for many hours without even getting close to a level up. Additionally, you'll be playing the game with the same half dozen weapons for the entire grind, further adding to the monotonous style of it. But enough talking about the weapons and perks. What are you actually gonna be using these weapons against? Allow me to introduce to you the Zeds, a range of failed genetic cloning experiments that have mutated far beyond their initial usage, broke free from containment, and are now running rampant throughout the streets of Britain. As this is the first game in the franchise, it features by far the least amount of specimens, 9 to be precise, and 1 boss. The first and most frequent of these is the Clots, the lowest of the low and least threatening of the bunch. They will just try to slash at you, but they are capable of grabbing onto unaware players, locking them in place until their more threatening friends show up. Next up is the Crawler, the other weakling Zed. They're basically Clots but move closer to the floor, and they're a tiny bit faster, so they can catch up to you as you're reloading. Now we're getting into the Zeds that can do a decent bit of damage, even on their own. The first of these is the Gorefast, which you'll easily recognize by their red skin, erratic behavior, and giant blades sticking out of one of their arms. They've got a pretty small health pool, but if you get cornered by one, they can take a nasty chunk out of your armor. Then we've got the Bloat, the first specimen with some special abilities. These large swollen specimens have the ability to vomit on you, covering your screen and hindering your vision. Luckily, they're so big you can hardly miss them, and if you pop their head off, they'll stumble around until they bleed out, which is recommended, because if you take them out by shooting them in the body, they'll pop and cover any nearby players and assets. Next up is the Stalker. They are pretty weak, but have the added ability of being invisible. Commandos have the ability to spot them once they get close, but they also reveal themselves when they attack players, allowing for an easy dispatch due to their meager health pool. Then we've got the Siren, the first Zed capable of damaging us with ranged attacks. Like the name implies, she damages you by screaming, chipping away at your health. Her screams also have the ability to destroy grenades and pipe bombs before they can properly explode. The Husk is yet another Zed capable of damaging you with ranged attacks. This guy's carrying a massive flame cannon. It doesn't only damage you with the impact, but also lights players on fire. Level 5 fire bugs become completely immune to fire damage, thus nullifying the Husk's attacks. Second to last, we've got the Scrake. This chainsaw-wielding monstrosity is capable of one-manning you if you get caught by him in a bad situation. They'll start out calm, but once they take enough damage, they'll become enraged and start sprinting towards you, eager to take your head off. The last Zed of the bunch is the most lethal, and is capable of one-manning me specifically most times I've come into contact with it, regardless of if I'm paying attention or not. This being the Fleshbound, the largest, most lethal Zed in the game. He carries giant spiked gauntlets on his hands, which he uses to completely pulverize you. Once again, he'll start calm, but once the light on its chest turns red, it will begin sprinting at you and often take half of your health in one fell swoop. Finally, once you make it to the end of the waves, you'll face off against the game's boss, the Patriarch, the mutated CEO of Horzine Tech, and the one responsible for the Z outbreak. He's become a monster of his own creation after experimenting on himself. He's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the attacks. He's invisible until he gets close to you, upon which he'll try to hit you with his chain gun, rockets, or tentacle attacks. Once you damage him enough, he'll attempt to run away, summoning some low tier Zeds to distract you. If he does manage to get far enough away from players, he'll heal himself before coming back for another round. He can do this up to 3 times, but teams that are organized enough can use their combined skills and abilities to eliminate him before he's able to heal once. But if you're playing solo, this is easier said than done, at least on any difficulty above beginner. Now, with all of this combined and taken into mind, we come to the question of the video. Is this game still worth playing in 2026? Well, it's a tough sell, I have to admit. Especially for someone who's checking it out for the first time in current year. I'd only played the second entry in the series up until this point, even platinumed the thing on PlayStation. But I gotta say, this game is really bare. And I understand that's largely because it is so old. But there are some really odd design choices that just feel arbitrary. First of all, you can't sprint. This is made even more confusing when you consider that you're meant to be portraying the British military, the SAS, the best of the best. Yet, these guys can't pull off a light jog when they're being chased down by a horde of ravenous flesh chompers. There's also no way to cancel a reload, so if you get caught mid-animation, you'll just have to backpedal and hope you don't get mauled to death in the meantime. And the game won't even let you swap to a different weapon to defend yourself while it's happening. You're just sort of supposed to stand there and take it. Now, we come to my biggest gripe. The difficulty curve. I understand that this game was designed primarily for co-op play, but still, I don't think there should be any reason as to why the balancing is so poor. I started out on normal, but quickly realized I was out of my depth. So I played a match on beginner, and I was bored to death. The Zeds get artificially slow to a crawl, and spawn way slower. So I jumped back into normal and got my ass handed to me again. Then I figured maybe I should just level up my perks a bit first. So I found a workshop map specifically designed to farm perk progress as fast as possible. But even after getting my perks to level 3, I was still completely out of my depth on normal. And this is where the frustration really sets in, because the game has essentially created a no man's land between its 2 lowest difficulties. Beginner is so easy, it's boring. Normal is so punishing, it's hostile. And the bridge between them is a perk grind that asks you to pour hours into the boring difficulty before you're mechanically equipped to survive the fun one. It feels like the Zeds have the same health pool regardless of whether there's 1 player in the game or a full party of 6. And if that's the case, because it certainly feels like it, then the game is fundamentally balanced around the full squad, which is fine in theory. Plenty of games are designed for co-op, but those games usually still give the solo player a fighting chance. Killing Floor doesn't feel like it's giving you a fighting chance. It feels like it's giving you a participation trophy on beginner and a brick wall on normal, and telling you the gap between them is your problem. And I think that, to a certain extent, this is just a bad design choice. The developers can't seriously expect new players to either monotonously grind the easiest difficulty for dozens of hours, or form a workshop map until their perks are high enough to survive what should be the baseline experience. Now, I want to be fair here, because despite everything I've just said, I can see what this game was. I can see why people loved it. The atmosphere is genuinely excellent, even better than KF2's in some way. The core loop of buying weapons, holding positions, and surviving waves is satisfying when it works. The Patriarch is a fun boss fight. The perk system, for all of its grind, is a clever framework that rewards dedication and gives you a reason to keep coming back. I can also see, very clearly, the blueprint for Killing Floor 2 in here. The bones of something great are present. The class identities, the wave structure, the trader system, the emphasis on teamwork and positioning. KF2 didn't reinvent the wheel. It took this wheel, sanded off the splinters, balanced it properly, and let it roll for a decade running. And almost everything I love about that game has its roots in this one. And that matters. That's a legacy worth respecting, even if this game itself is hard to recommend in its current state. But respecting a game's legacy and recommending it to someone in 2026 are 2 different things. And the honest answer to the question in the title is no, not really. Not unless you've got a group of friends willing to commit to the grind with you, or you genuinely don't mind queuing up with randoms, which me personally has never really been my thing. If you're curious about Killing Floor as a franchise, play the second one. It's everything this game wanted to be, done better in almost every way. And if you're here because you already love KF1, because you put hundreds of hours into it back in 2009, and you're watching this wondering why some guy on YouTube is being mean to your favorite game, I get it, I really do. You played this with friends, and it's prime, when the jank was charming and the grind was the point. That's a valid experience. It's just not one I can have in 2026. Coming to it cold, playing it alone, with a sequel sitting right there that does nearly everything better. Killing Floor laid the groundwork for something genuinely special, but the groundwork is groundwork. And sometimes, the building that gets built on top of it is so much better that going back to the foundation just reminds you how far the construction has come. Hey everyone, as always, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment, hype the video if you're on mobile, and subscribe as I have 260 more games to cover. I've been Xeniverse, more videos soon. Ish.